What is up, ladies and gentlemen? I literally just finished watching Watchmen Chapter 1. I told y'all when I did the reaction to the movie that I'm hoping these movies do very well. I love, as I said it before, I love Watchmen. I first was introduced to it with the live action movie. I didn't really know much of the comic, but that masterpiece, shout out to Zack Snyder, everybody that was part of that, got me to reading the comic. And now they're basically putting the comic in these movies, in these cartoon movies. And I just want to give you my thoughts on it. I believe it was done very well. Now, I will, because some people was wondering, is a lot of the dialogue that was in the live action going to be in this cartoon? Yes, but it all comes from the comic. Obviously, every little word is not going to be in it from the comic. It's not going to be in this movie. But if you watch the live action, you have an idea of what this cartoon is going to be. There's a little difference though. They put more from the comics in here. And what I mean by that is one of the most genius things they did in this movie was add the comic of the Tales of the Black Friday in here, and the way they put it in this movie was brilliant. It added so much intensity and focus on this movie. The way they added that comic with a little extra dialogue as well from other scenes that you've seen in the live action movie that is in this one, they added extra dialogue in it, and that on top of the comic storyline of Tales of the Black Fright made this movie glued. My eyes were glued. And I will say this, if you're a fan of Watchmen, you're definitely going to respect this passion project, because I really believe this is a passion project for us. And honestly, there's some people who don't want to read the comic. I believe this was a good idea to make it into a movie. So that way, if you don't want to read the comic, just get this. Or just get the live action. The live action doesn't have every little detail in it that's from the comic, but enough. When I read the comic, I was like, okay, there are some changes, but not too much. But this one here, they added the way they added the Tales of the Black Fright and other things was beautiful. I think it was well done. I like the art style of it. It really felt like a comic. And what I mean by that is, if it was a still book, like a regular comic book, it would have that same art style that the movie had. It's just the difference is the movie, actually they're moving, talking and stuff like that. But it felt like you was watching a comic book. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. I mean, yeah, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's like you're reading a comic book. You know, I can only speak for myself. When I read a comic book, I have images of my head. Even when I'm looking at pictures, I have images in my head of them moving and talking and stuff like that. This movie felt like those thoughts I have in my mind, those images I have, are coming out for Blu-ray, for theater, or whatever. And I like how they did that. That was beautiful. I will say, shout out to the voice acting. I think Rorschach did a good job. Troy Baker is in here as well. Dr. Mahan, everybody. I think they did a good job casting the voice acting. There were a couple moments where it was like some of the voice acting seemed stiff, and what I mean by that is, it's like it was one certain moment where it was emotional for these two individuals, but one of them sounded like the voice actor was just reading from a page, and I'm going to go to the left. There was only one moment like that, but it was very noticeable. It was like, whoa, you came from having emotions to going straight to, and he went left. It was like the emotion just dropped just from how that person was talking. But that was one instance. I don't think it was overall. I think they did a great job. I wouldn't say downfall, but one thing that I do miss from the live action that this one didn't have is the soundtrack. The score in the live action is one of the best I've ever heard in life. I don't know who did the score for the live action one, but that has to be one of my favorite scores in movies, TV, whatever, of all time. One of the on the Mount Rushmore, Watchmen has one of the best scores. And because some people were wondering, this doesn't have as much language as the live action was. So for those who don't like a lot of language, this one is very, very little. It's not that much. Violence is a little toned down compared to like you watch the live action. Live action is pretty graphic. I mean, it's not a spoiler because it's in the live action. If you read the comic, you know what it is. There's a scene where Night Owl and Silk Spectre was in the alley, regular clothes on. They were fighting these thugs. If you watch the live action, that was brutal. Here, it was it could have been on TV. You know, it wasn't no like breaking bones or nothing like that. So stuff like that was a little different. I will say, I was glad to not have to see Dr. Manhattan's balls a lot. It was about 2 quick scenes of him with it, but overall they had situations where he was standing by a desk and it was covered, like most like that, where like live action they showed it a lot, but here for the most part it was covered up. They showed it twice. It was very quick, and I was like, I appreciate that. I don't want to see that. We already know he don't have no clothes on. But yeah, one of the, like, for me, the best thing they did was add that comic into the movie, and how they put it in there. That was good. I love that narration. Whoever was narrating did a good job. The way they put the comic in the movie as you see the movie going on. I don't want to spoil. The Tales of the Black Friday has some resemblance, for those who don't know, to resemblance to what's going on in Watchmen, and the way they show you and attach it, show you the comic and attach it to the movie, was done very well. Whoever was behind that, whoever directed that part, great job. Even the ending, it's a to be continued. It's part 1. So even the credits, they have. I don't want to spoil it. Watch the credits. The way they did that, beautiful. I loved it. And I ain't gonna front. I feel this way when I read the comics. I feel this way when I watch the live action. I felt the same way in here. Watchmen has some of the best writing, it feels like poetry when you're listening to this movie. When you're watching this movie, it feels like poetry you're listening to. Rorschach's journal, the comic narration, Dr. Manhattan talking about his experience, stuff like that. It felt, even other people just talking amongst each other, it felt like listening to poetry. I don't know why. When I watched the movie, the live action, the comic, it felt like, and I love poetry. That's what this felt like. The dialogue, the writing is beautiful. I love it. So yes. I did want to answer this question. I was asked, if you're not a Watchmen fan, could you still like it? Yes, this is that. I didn't know what Watchmen was. I'm gonna put it to you that way. And yes, I like superheroes. So if you're not into superheroes, would you like it? Yes, because superheroes is in this movie. It's not the end all be all of it. That's not fully what this movie's about. They could have not had these as superheroes, and it still would have been just as good. It's just they implemented that in here. But, I'm take that back. Dr. Manhattan would have to be a superhero. So, overall, what I'm saying is it could have been... It being a superhero has very little to do with how great this movie is. This movie is good, whether if you like superheroes or not, whether if you know the comic or not. Yes. And I would advise to watch the live action one. Watch the live action one. The Ultimate Edition, I believe it's called. What's the one I got? I got the director's cut. They have more footage. I would definitely advise watching the director's cut. But yeah, I'm looking forward to chapter 2. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. They do put the trailer of chapter 2 at the end of the credits, so stay for the credits. But yeah, I hope this part 2 doesn't come out. Oh, that's the one thing I didn't like. The movie's only an hour and 25 minutes. They should just put 1 and 2 together. If part 2 is going to be an hour and a half, hour 25 minutes, I understand they're trying to milk it. You didn't have to do that. You know, they could have made this a whole 3.5 hour movie, and I could have enjoyed this whole thing at once. But no, they had to have it chapter 1. I ain't gonna front. When I saw the trailer, I'm thinking when they said chapter 1, it was gonna be a longer movie. But it's only an hour and 25 minutes. They could have made this the whole thing one movie. But that's the only thing. But I mean, if that's the only complaint I have, the movie's great. The movie is great. I want to watch it again. I can literally just listen to it as I'm working on stuff. Definitely worth the buy. I got the physical copy. I know I'm physical all the way. So yeah, thank you, WB, for making it a physical copy. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. That's my take on the movie. Definitely worth watching. They should have put this in theaters. Well, no, when you get part 2, when part 2 comes out, they should release the chapter 1 and chapter 2 all at once in one theater. Come on. Let's make this great. I said it in the trailer before. Let's make this movie great. I am a huge fan of Watchmen. I would love to see movies like this do amazing. Let's make it great. Go pick it up. Let's support it. Hopefully it gets so much attention to where it gets released in theaters. But that's, a brother can hope. But thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all have a good night. I'll check you later.